about how to to evaluate rational exponents, just to get some practice with understanding exactly what it is that you're doing. So I want to talk about some repeated multiplication, then write it using the exponent, get the product, and then since we've been talking about inverses, we'll talk about the inverse and the radical, and then either evaluate or simplified here. So let's start out with this first one, repeated multiplication. So the repeated multiplication here I've got is 5 times 5 times 5. So you should be able to guess that writing that as an exponent will give us 5 cubed, or 5 to the third power. So the product then would be 125, because 5 times 5 is 25, times 5 again is 125. You can always use your calculator to check. You can pause the video. So the inverse of that would then be saying I want to take this 125 and raise that to the 1/3 power. So what I'm really doing is finding and that doesn't want to go away for me, so I'll just drag it out of the way. I want to find the cube root of 125. The index is the 3, so that means I want to find the cube root. That means I want to find a number that when I multiply it by itself 3 times, I'm going to get 5. So I'm showing you this working backwards. So you're going to have to learn some of these cube roots, the basic ones, probably up to about 6, and then probably even knowing what 10 is. So then another example of repeated multiplication would be, well, what happens if I take and I multiply -5 times -5 times -5? So since I have an odd number of negatives, I'm still going to take this -5 and as an exponent, or using exponents, raise that to the 3rd power. So my product should be a -125. So the inverse of that, now remember, you can't take the square root of a negative number, but because the cube root is going to use a number 3 times over, then I can take the -125 to the 1/3 power, which really is taking the cube root of -125. This would be a big no-no or error if it were a square root, but because I'm multiplying the same number 3 times, then I know that the cube root is -5. So if you've got questions about this, make sure that you think this through and ask a neighbor, ask me, and I will be glad to help you. So what I'm going to have you do next is do some practice for evaluation for working with rational exponents.